welcome to today's explainer. Today, we're going to unravel a fascinating, honestly mind-bending concept that connects the microscopic stress in our very cells to the overall stability of our entire civilization. I know it sounds like pure science fiction, but this is actually deeply grounded in emerging interdisciplinary research.
So if you just glance at the news lately, it's really easy to feel like things are completely unraveling. It begs the question, is our world just falling apart into chaos? Well, today we're exploring a revolutionary systems-level synthesis called the filament trajectory model, or FTM. And this model gives us a completely new lens. It asks us to view human existence not as a bunch of random, isolated events, but as one massive, evolving, interconnected system.
To really grasp how our individual health and societal stability are woven together, we'll follow a quick roadmap. We'll start by defining systemic coherence. Then we'll explore the biological, psychological, and sociological filaments. After that, we'll examine global decoherence, and finally, we'll talk about how we can actually restore the trajectory.
Okay, let's jump into that first part, defining systemic coherence. The crucial point we have to get straight right away is that coherence isn't just some wellness buzzword for feeling good. In the context of the FTM, it's a dynamic, measurable property. It's the active alignment of systems working efficiently together. It's literally the glue that keeps our biological stress responses, our personal identities, and our social structures from just completely falling apart.
Think of it like a deeply nested structure. Biology, psychology, sociology. They aren't separate buckets that researchers study in isolation. Not at all. Instead, they are deeply interconnected filaments woven into a single braid. And they are continuously pushing and pulling on each other through really powerful upward and downward feedback loops.
Let's zoom all the way in for our second stop, the biological filament.
Down at the microscopic level, our bodies are constantly striving for alignment. This happens through tightly regulated physiological feedback loops, like the HPA axis, which is the command center for our stress response, and through epigenetic adaptation, meaning our environment and behaviors can actually alter how our genes express themselves. And let's be real here, our ancient biology can't always tell the difference between a looming bear attack and a passive-aggressive email from your boss. So those systems, they're basically working overtime, all the time.
What's genuinely fascinating is that we can actually measure this biological coherence. We aren't just guessing. By tracking specific metrics like heart rate variability, the circadian rhythm of your cortisol, and the physical length of your telomeres, which are those little protective caps on your DNA, we can see the real-world toll. The research proves, definitively, that chronic stress and environmental toxins physically fray our foundational filament. They wear down telomeres, disrupt cortisol, and literally accelerate our DNA methylation age.
Moving up a layer, we arrive at our third area, the psychological filament.
You see, biological stress doesn't just stay in the body. It doesn't exist in a vacuum. A frayed biological thread directly impacts our mind's ability to maintain a unified identity and cope with adversity. For true psychological coherence, we need our core beliefs, our values, and our behaviors to be deeply aligned across all the different contexts of our lives.
When that biological instability bleeds into our psychology, we see measurable fragmentation. We can track it through spikes in cognitive dissonance arousal, drops in identity stability scores, and sharp increases in PTSD symptomatology. When your biological base gets shaken up by chronic stress, it translates upward into severe psychological fragmentation, leading to maladaptive coping mechanisms and a profound loss of personal resilience.
Now let's zoom out to the macro level for Section 4, the sociological filament. Just as your physical body needs healthy, coherent cells to function, a coherent society requires its institutions and collective norms to be structurally sound. Societal coherence is way more than just everyone getting along. It's about the deep, systemic alignment of social norms and absolute institutional integrity.
And just like our biology and our psychology, this societal level leaves a data trail. The FTM reveals that widespread corruption, which we measure through things like corruption perception index scores, doesn't just hurt a country's economy. It is a form of massive societal fraying that feeds right back down to amplify your individual psychological distress. I mean, think about that. Living in an unfair, high-corruption society literally raises your baseline cortisol. It is a completely connected circuit.
So what happens when this goes wrong? We get what the model calls cascading decoherence. It's a terrifying downward spiral where local disruptions cascade through the entire system. Chronic biological stress drives psychological trauma.
That trauma then scales up, shattering social trust, which ultimately leads to institutional failure. The entire braid just begins to fray from the inside out.
When you step back and look at the whole picture, the elegance of the filament trajectory model is undeniable. You can track everything from cellular toxins disrupting your biology all the way up to severe inequality fracturing our society. Everything is linked by these feedback mechanisms, connecting the core metrics we can measure to the disruptors that threaten every single layer of human existence.
Which brings us to a critical breaking point in Section 5, global decoherence and collapse.
Researchers call this worst-case scenario global decoherence, when those negative feedback loops amplify out of control across biology, psychology, and society simultaneously. The result isn't just a bad decade. It's a systemic breakdown causing cascading failures and a total, catastrophic loss of adaptive capacity. In the literature, this state is literally classified as a precursor to civilizational collapse.
The contrast here is incredibly stark, and it really shows us what's at stake. On one path, we have a coherent system. We maintain our molecular integrity, our mental health, and high social trust. On the other path, we face global decoherence, amplified disruptions, systemic psychological fragmentation, and total institutional failure. We're on a trajectory right now, and the FTM is essentially a warning light flashing on the dashboard, telling us we are either actively building a high-trust system or sliding toward unstoppable fragmentation.
But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. Let's hit Section 6, restoring our collective trajectory.
The real power of the FTM is that it gives us the exact blueprint we need to repair the braid. By targeting coherence at multiple levels at the same time, we can absolutely make a difference. This means rolling out public health stress reduction programs to actually modulate our biological HPA axis. It means utilizing advanced computational systems modeling, using tools like Vensum and Stella to predict system behaviors long before they collapse. And it requires deep, longitudinal, multi-omic studies and cross-cultural validation. If we map these causal pathways, we can intentionally design interventions to intercept decoherence before it spreads.
So as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought. You've seen the data, and you understand the model. Knowing that your own biological resilience, the literal health of your cells and your personal identity, is deeply and directly linked to the survival and stability of our entire civilization, how are you going to protect your part of the braid today? Which thread are you going to strengthen first? Thank you so much for joining me to explore the filament trajectory model. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.